This is an All Ears English podcast, episode 919, the key moment in surfing that is just like speaking English. Welcome to the All Ears English podcast. Downloaded more than 50 million times, we believe in connection, not perfection, with your American hosts, Lindsay McMahon, the English adventurer, and Michelle Kaplan, the New York radio girl, coming to you from Boston and New York City, USA. And to get your transcripts delivered by email every week, go to allearsenglish.com/subscribe.
Today, we hear Lindsay's story about learning how to surf in Nicaragua. Find out how the moment when you stand up on a surfboard is just like the moment when you decide to jump into an English conversation.
Hey, Michelle, how you doing today?
Hey, Lindsay, I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited to hear about your trip.
I know, I'm back from Nicaragua and it was awesome. And I'm going to share some insights that I had on the trip with our listeners today. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be cool.
Okay, awesome. That's exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah. Super, super exciting. But first, I want to remind our listeners real quick, guys, today we're going to use some new vocabulary that you might not know in English. So we're talking about surfing today, actually. But if you want to make sure that you catch all the words we say on the show today, you want to go over to allearsenglish.com/subscribe and get the transcripts for all of the episodes, and you get it delivered to your inbox on Mondays. So cool.
Nice. There you go. Exciting.
Yeah, and we have lots of cool stuff going on here, Michelle. Here, guys, I want to remind our listeners that Jessica and I are going to be in Japan in April. So, guys, if you're in Japan and you have not signed up yet, you want to go over to allearsenglish.com/Tokyo and sign up before the spots fill up. You want to grab the Kizuna level if you can. Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Cool.
So cool. So, Michelle, yes, I'm back from Nicaragua, and you came back from Italy a little while. I like it. I feel like this season we're talking about our trips and our traveling a lot.
Well, that's the best thing ever. So, my favorite thing to do is travel. So, and I know, I'm guessing it is pretty much for you too.
Totally. I realized something about myself while I was traveling. Yeah. I love ambiguity. And I love the ambiguity that happens when you're traveling because you don't know you never quite know exactly what's going on.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I know. I love that too. Just like that, I don't know. It's just like a free feeling.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the day holds.
Right.
There's no real routine. And you also just are always kind of a little bit confused, which I find fun and interesting and humbling.
Yeah, I feel like the most valuable experiences when you're traveling are those times where like you're like a little bit uneasy about something and then you figure it out. You know what I mean? Like if you're lost, or I don't know, maybe you eat something that you were kind of like worried about that's like something a little bit different and it's great. Or I feel like those are like the most rewarding experiences. Maybe that sounds funny. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I mean, when we're traveling, we are living with the volume turned all the way up.
Right, that's right.
Right? Especially, in Nicaragua, it was hot. It was so hot. It was in the high 90s, mid 90s and sunny, and it was dusty and dirty at times in places, but it was fun. We really got in there. We had kind of an adrenaline-filled week.
Great. That's great.
Yeah, we did some volcano boarding, which sounds kind of crazy. Have you ever heard of that, volcano boarding?
No.
Yeah, where you rent a board and you bomb down a volcano.
Wow.
Yeah, an active volcano too.
Oh my gosh, Lindsay, that's crazy.
It was insane. I went pretty slow, but the fastest record in our group was 75 kilometers an hour. One guy went 75K per hour.
Oh
it was
my
crazy.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah, but one of the scariest things that we did and most adrenaline pumping things was actually surfing. And that's what I want to talk about today because surfing is such a visceral experience, Michelle.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm like an expert surfer.
Are you really?
No. I was wondering if I could fool you.
No,
I'm not. I am not.
I wonder if you fooled some of our listeners.
I wonder. Yeah, no, never been surfing. So what was it like, Lindsay?
Well, it was just intense. I think that's the word for it because I don't know. Surfing is the kind of thing where you kind of have to surrender to the ocean a little bit. And we're going to talk about how surfing today is a lot like learning to speak English and diving in and speaking when you're not totally sure how it's going to come across, right? Because there's a moment in surfing when we make a choice to stand up on the board, and that's what we're going to hone in on today. But the basic experience of surfing is intense because we actually had pretty big waves. Like probably they weren't the best ones to learn on.
Yeah.
They were considered world-class waves. They weren't Hawaii, they weren't Australia waves, but they were big. Like they were world-class waves. And we also had our lesson in Spanish. So we didn't have English-speaking teachers.
Oh, wow.
So those two things. And then of course you get thrown under and you get the board is attached to your ankle and it kind of it pulls with the surf. And so it's pulling, feels like it's going to pull your leg off kind of. And you get thrown around in the waves. It was crazy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So were you scared? I mean,
I was scared. I was definitely scared. The whole time I was like, am I okay? Like, should I be doing this? Should I just stop and maybe learn somewhere else that's more calm, maybe in New England? Like the whole time I was like, I'm not sure if I don't know if I'm okay here. Right. But Michelle, today, let's create a little analogy to inspire our listeners to keep learning English. And after I surfed, I was sitting down, I was having a beer, and I was reflecting how surfing is like one specific moment in the lives of our listeners.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, this is especially true for our listeners who are living abroad, guys. If you are living in a foreign country, in a English speaking country, and you're having to take this risk every day,
right.
But it does also apply to our listeners who are just learning, right? Who are occasionally speaking. And do you know the phrase stick your neck out, Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Isn't it like kind of like taking a risk?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's taking a risk. Taking a risk.
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And before we dive further into this, guys, I want to remind you, we have our new app available, right?
Yes.
So I just uploaded a new video. Michelle, your video was live last week where you introduced our listeners to a convenience store in New York, and that was super cool. Yep. So, and this week there's a new video live, where I was in Nicaragua and talking about how to talk about being new at doing something, which is riding a motorbike. We rented a motorbike. So that was fun.
Oh my gosh. Was it like a scooter or like a real what was it?
Yeah, it was actually more of a scooter, honestly. But it was definitely it was another one of those, should we do this? Is this, cause when we were taking the boat over, to Ometepe Island, we talked to one of the expats who was living there and she said, I don't recommend it. I see accidents all the time, and the way the company makes their money is on the wrecks, on the crashes.
Oh my gosh.
And so we thought, oh my gosh, should we do this? What do we do? And then we said, forget it. We're just going to do it. Let's just do it.
So I went the first time Dan and I went on vacation together, we went on a cruise actually. And, at one of the stops, we tried to do one of the scooters and it was terrifying. I don't know how you did that. It was so scary.
Where were you?
Where were we? Somewhere in Florida. It was I think it was Port Canaveral, Florida.
Okay.
And they just happened to have there wasn't really that much to do there, honestly. But so we decided to try and rent these scooters, and I had to get off of it because I was too freaked out. I was I'm definitely going to break a bone or more than one bone. And so we ended up instead we got off of it and we took a little car around that we were driving, but it was much safer feel. So I'm very impressed and shocked that you would do that.
Yeah, it's not, my travel partner, Mal, was really helpful. I think she has more guts than I do sometimes. So she drove the bike and she pushed us over the edge with some of these things, really. But yeah, we did it and luckily we were okay. We just went super slow, but I hope you try the scooter another time, Michelle, maybe, or maybe not.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the surfing thing. So this analogy today, guys, I want you to imagine this moment when we stick our necks out, right? So in surfing, here's how it works, right? Some of our listeners might be surfers, so they know that when you paddle out, you're surfing, you paddle out, just like a fish, right? Paddle out to where the wave is going to break and you hang out there. You wait for the wave. And then when you spot it, you decide that that's going to be the wave you're going to get, right? Mm-hmm. So at that point, you turn around, you turn the surfboard around, and you feel the wave coming up under you. It's an incredible feeling. I always wanted to know what it felt like to surf, right? You feel it coming up under you. And then here's the key moment that I see the comparison between learning English and speaking in a group. It's when we decide to stand up on the surfboard, right? Because what happens if you don't stand up on the surfboard, Michelle?
You're going to be carried away by a wave?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, you're not even surfing. You're just boogie boarding.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, my teacher, I don't know if I misunderstood his Spanish, but he said it was actually riskier if I don't stand up, it'd be more dangerous. Maybe he was lying to me and just saying that, but I believed him. So, you know
what? I always feel like I'm surfing when I'm on the subway in New York and I'm not holding on to something. I actually feel like surfer. I'm like, that's how I imagine surfing to be. Not that I should be doing that. I should hold on. But anyway, sorry.
I bet you would be a good surfer because of your heavy train experience, like with your crowded train experience.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, but everybody hold on to the poles. That's right.
I mean, in surfing, there's nothing to hold on to, right?
Yeah.
So that's the key moment that I see very similar to speaking in a group, right? Especially in a group, taking that chance. It's when you decide to stand up, because you can definitely decide to not stand up and just to stay on your belly and just keep kind of like paddling, and obviously you would flip over, you fall into, and that happens sometimes, but at least twice out of 10 tries, I managed to stand up.
Wow, that's good. So how did that feel?
It felt amazing, Michelle. This feeling of being carried by the waves, hanging in the air, and knowing that you made that choice to stand up. It's empowering because it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And I guess you have to like, in making the choice, you have to go full into it because you have to probably be like, just like physically so strong. So like, you can't just like, do it halfway because otherwise you're just going to fall, right?
You can't just dip your toe into the water, so to speak, right? Good little pun there, right? You can't do that because then you would fall for sure. You got to be fully, you make the commitment, you commit, I'm going to stand up here.
Right.
Guys, if you love this podcast and you are an iOS user, you can listen to the show in our new iOS app where you get free limited time bonus videos. Go to allearsenglish.com/app to download it right away. allearsenglish.com/app. So, Michelle, how is this like learning English? How is this like speaking in English? Like, what moment are we talking about for our listeners?
Well, we're talking about, I think this is a great analogy, right? That moment when you make a choice, right? And you have the courage to stand up, right? That's when, it's scary because you know that you might get hurt, right? You're vulnerable. Yeah. It feels like that, right? But it feels scarier, but actually you have to do it to grow.
Exactly, right? Because if we never stand up on the surfboard, like I said before, we're just boogie boarding. So we're not fully experiencing the thing we want to experience, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I like that. Very nice analogy, Lindsay.
Yeah, I mean, the best ideas come when we're out in the world, right? Breathing in the air, maybe inhaling salt water.
Little too much sun.
Exactly. A little too much sun creates good ideas, I think. No. So I envision this similar to the moment where, let's imagine our listeners are in a group of native speakers or a mix of native speakers and non-native speakers, and they're speaking fast, right? Back and forth, boom, boom, boom. Okay. And then an idea comes to your mind, right? And you want to say what's coming to your mind. You say it in your head. Maybe you're rehearsing. And that's the moment when you have to make the choice, which is the equivalent of standing up on the surfboard, right? You have to decide to jump into the conversation and speak.
Right. And like, it's hard because, you're really putting yourself out there. Like, and I have a lot of students who, are nervous about speaking, especially if they're taking a class with native English speakers. I have so many come to me and say like, oh, I can't express myself. I'm scared to ask a question. I'm scared to, this and that. Yeah. I'm like, there's a lot of fear and that's understandable. But the way to get past it is just to do it because really, what is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen? I mean, actually surfing is more dangerous. That way you could get physically hurt. I mean, knock on wood, you can't get physically hurt from trying to say something in a conversation.
Knock on wood. But sometimes we feel like we can, right?
Right. It feels that way. And like, you just have to think, okay, what is the worst thing that can happen? Probably, Lindsay, what do you think is the worst thing?
I mean, the worst thing is that, that's the point, right? Sometimes we don't have complete control over how that gesture is going to be received by the people around us. Like when it comes to surfing, we can't control the ocean. We don't know what the waves are going to be like. We don't know that particular wave. We don't know. Maybe there are sharks. Who knows, right? With native speakers, we don't know if they'll be friendly, if they'll be annoyed, if they'll ignore us.
Will they?
Right. Yeah. We can't know though. Can we, Michelle?
No. And like also whatever it is, that's what it is. Like, at least you took a chance. Yeah. So I know it would feel terrible. Like if you said something and it just happened to be the wrong thing and people kind of like give you a strange look or laughed or something. And like, that's not about you. That's about them. And like not being patient with people and, just not a good attitude in general, right? Most people, I think, I don't know, but like, I feel like a lot, especially maybe in New York, because there's so much diversity here, like have a bit of patience, right? And, or I hope so. And, but you're not going to know if you don't find out. And the worst thing is you get a weird look. Okay. So like, you just move past it and try again next time. It's okay. It would happen to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And the other side of this is that, I think there's something very admirable about people who are wholehearted and they really try things and they step beyond that like fear in their heads. It's a kind of a surrender to the universe in some ways, right? Standing up on that surfboard, making the commitment to speak, putting your life energy out there into the world and then letting yourself become vulnerable. But it's really the only way to get good at something. It's the only way to be fully alive in that moment.
Right. Exactly. So I love it.
Yeah. Can you think of any other situations, Michelle, beyond just speaking in a group for our listeners where they could use this analogy and remember it when they're out there?
Well, I guess it could be like, giving a speech.
Yeah.
Right? Giving a speech or like, like we talked about like raising your hand in class, right? Something like that. So, these situations, like, like I was talking about with the classroom, it's very intimidating. I have a lot of students who are giving speeches and who want to ask a question, but they're scared. I mean, I encounter this pretty much every time I'm with a student. Somebody brings this up to me. And the thing is, you just have to go out and just put yourself out there and do it. And something that I tell students is like, okay, let's say you're in a class and this can go for just a regular conversation. Like, you can give yourself a goal that nobody else but you knows about, right? So if you're in a class, say, I'm going to raise my hand 2 times in this class. Or
I love
if
that.
you're with a group of native speakers, you say, I'm going to make 2 comments and it doesn't like, so you have to do that. And you might get more comfortable and say, oh wow, I can actually make 4. You know what I mean? Like make a tiny goal for yourself. No one knows you have it and just go for it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good, kind of takeaway we could recommend to our listeners here, Michelle, because that way you're measuring not like success or failure by how it's received. It's more based on your actions.
Right.
How many times you actually try it. You do the thing, right? With surfing, next time I try surfing, I could say, I'm going to stand up 4 times in this half hour. Right. And no matter what happens, it doesn't matter if I stand up successfully or if I look beautiful, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stand up 4 times.
Actually, recently I went to my very first spin class ever.
Cool.
And do you do those?
I've tried them. They're not really my favorite thing, but how did it go for you?
They're not my favorite thing either, but I said, I'm just going to try it. Like there was an open class and the instructor, it was perfect because she said, is anybody new here?
Yep.
And I said, me. And she said to me, your only goal in this class is to finish the class. Don't look at the other people in the class. Your goal is to finish the class. So it doesn't matter how fast or how slow you are, right? And because I had that goal, I was able to finish the class. And I think had she not said that to me, I would have been looking around like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Everybody's keeping up and I'm behind. I mean, I was behind the entire time, but I felt great because I finished the class.
I love that. That's a good example. So it's about
a great piece of advice.
Yeah, it's about the action that you take. It's what's within your control. And then there's that moment where you take that leap of faith and you put your energy out into the universe. And then the universe to some extent will decide like how successful we are. But the only thing that we can control is whether we stand up, whether we finish the class, or whether we share that thought in our mind in English.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. And so this is about acting. And, I think there's also this whole thing for our listeners around. Many of our listeners, I think, feel like they need to spend more time preparing, right? I'm not prepared enough. I'm not going to speak today because I want to prepare more. But Michelle, what do you think about that? I mean, at some point, we just have to throw it out there.
Yeah, because sometimes you might be delaying yourself and like making excuses, right? Yeah, like
Exactly.
you could either be like so prepared, but sometimes there's a thing as being like too prepared and like being unnatural, right? You want to be yourself.
Yeah.
You want to, you don't have to like be perfect, It's all
Exactly.
about connection, not perfection, right?
Yeah. I mean, what would happen?
A wise person once said that.
Yeah, a wise person once said, a wise podcast
Yes.
once said. I mean, what happens when we're learning to walk as kids, like we're 3 years old, whatever, what would happen if we spent like a year or 2 or 3 years preparing, like studying how to walk? It wouldn't work. Right?
Right.
Instead,
Learning by
get up
doing.
and we walk and we learn by doing. You got it. So, I mean, this is it, guys. I mean, this is kind of what we want to say to you today. Michelle, what is our takeaway for our listeners today then?
Well, just go for it. Stand up, jump into that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Right. So even if it's a big risk, the bigger possible, there's like a big chance of getting a bigger reward from like, depending on the size of your risk, right? So
exactly.
Next time, you have that chance, just stand up, speak in English and, don't just go for it and see what happens. Look at it as an experiment rather than like a life or death situation.
Exactly. No one's going to die. Maybe in surfing they will.
Yeah,
but because we're just talking about learning English for you guys, no one's going to die.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. Okay. Awesome. I love that. Such an interesting episode today, Michelle. And I loved your examples about the spin class and the subway, surfing the subway.
Thank you. No, great analogy, Lindsay. I'm glad to hear you had a good experience.
Oh yeah, I want to try it again, but I want to try it this time like in Massachusetts, like more calm waves. I think I jumped into a very intense ocean that day.
Sounds like it. So.
Yeah. All right, guys. So if you love today's episode and you want to start listening in the app, because over in the app, we now have these cool videos, right? So last week, Michelle, were you in downtown Manhattan? Is that where you were? Somewhere around there?
For the convenience store? Yeah, around that.
Yeah.
Area.
Around there, right? And I actually did a video when I was in Nicaragua, like I said, on a motorbike. So guys, you can catch these videos, but they come down after just a couple of days. So that's why you want to have this app downloaded on your phone so you can get those alerts when we add a new video. So go to allearsenglish.com/bonuses and download the app, put it on your phone and get ready. So
Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Lindsay. And guys, go for it. You can do it.
All right, cool. Thanks for hanging out today, Michelle. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Lindsay.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to All Ears English. And if you need a 7 or higher on your IELTS exam to achieve your life vision, then our Insider Method can get you there. Start with our free video series masterclass. Get video 1 now at allearsenglish.com/INSIDER. And if you believe in connection, not perfection, then subscribe to our show on your phone or on your computer. See you next time.